Under the shimmering glow of crystal chandeliers, I stood in the shadows of the Anderson Technology Gala, a solitary figure amidst Silicon Valley's glittering elite. The air buzzed with ambition, champagne flutes clinking like whispered promises of power. My sister Sophia, radiant at 32, held court near the center of the ballroom, her laughter a calculated melody that drew executives like moths to a flame. I sipped my sparkling water, watching her gesture with the confidence of someone who believed the world was hers to command. Little did she know, as she boasted of her $4 billion merger, that I held the secret that would unravel her triumph and our family's carefully polished legacy before the sun rose tomorrow. Sophia's voice carried over the hum of conversation, sharp and self-assured. The merger with Sterling Industries will redefine the tech landscape, she declared, her diamond bracelet catching the light. Anderson Tech will dominate the market. My team's been relentless for months. I suppressed a smile, knowing exactly how long her team had worked and why their deal was built on sand. I leaned against an ornate pillar, my modest black dress a deliberate contrast to the designer gowns swirling around me. At 35, I'd learned the power of being underestimated, especially by those who shared my blood. Gabriella, stop lurking. My mother's voice sliced through my thoughts, her tone laced with exasperation. She glided toward me, her diamond necklace glittering like her disapproval. It's embarrassing. I stepped forward, bracing for the familiar script of these galas. Sophia's star would shine, while my choices would be dissected like a failed experiment. Sophia was just telling us about the Sterling merger, my mother continued, her pride palpable. 32, and already vice president of acquisitions. We always knew she'd soar. Unlike some, my father added, his gaze pinning me. At 58, Richard Anderson still commanded any room, his tailored tuxedo masking the strain of recent months at Anderson Tech. His words stung, but I'd grown accustomed to their barbs. I took another sip of water, my expression neutral. Gabriella's still chasing that startup dream, Sophia said with a dismissive wave, her smirk as sharp as her stilettos. What's it called again? Some software thing? Nexus Technologies, I replied softly. We develop advanced cybersecurity solutions. Right, Sophia drawled, twirling her champagne flute, tinkering with computers in a garage somewhere. She didn't know that somewhere was the top 5 floors of Silicon Valley's most prestigious office tower. I kept that truth locked away, just as I'd kept silent about so much over the past 3 years. My mother sighed, adjusting her necklace. I don't understand why you waste your time with that small business nonsense. You could have been in management at Anderson Tech by now. I bit back a retort, thinking of the documents waiting in my office. Papers that would reveal who truly held the reins. Speaking of management, my father interjected, his voice booming, Sophia's merger is historic, the largest acquisition in Anderson Tech's history, nearly $4 billion with contracts signed tomorrow morning. Every major news outlet will be there, Sophia added, her eyes gleaming. It's a done deal. I glanced at my watch, a simple timepiece that belied my ability to outbid every jewel in this room. I should head out, I said, my tone even. Early meeting tomorrow. Sophia's perfectly arched eyebrows rose. Oh? Finally landed a real client? Her laughter was a blade, swift and cutting. Something like that, I murmured. Don't let us keep you from your little startup, she said, waving me off. Some of us have billion-dollar deals to close. As I turned to leave, my mother's stage whisper followed me. She just works at some startup. It's rather embarrassing. I wove through the crowd, nodding politely to tech moguls who had no idea I was the elusive CEO they'd been clamoring to meet. Outside, the cool night air brushed my skin, and I allowed myself a small, private smile. Tomorrow, my family will learn that the daughter they dismissed as a failure had been building an empire right under their noses. And when the cameras rolled, it wouldn't be Sophia's name on the headlines. The gala's golden light faded as I slipped into the back of a modest sedan, leaving the Bentley I preferred tucked away in my garage. My driver, Thomas, glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "Home, Miss Collins?" he asked, using the name I'd adopted in the business world. I shook my head, pulling out my phone. "The office first, Thomas. I need to review everything for tomorrow." As we pulled away from the Anderson Technology Gala, the weight of my family's words, embarrassing, small time, failure, fell away like a discarded mask. In their world, I was Gabriella Anderson, the disappointing daughter. In mine, I was Catherine Collins, the architect of a $12 billion cybersecurity empire, and tomorrow, those worlds would collide. A message from Marcus, my chief operating officer, lit up my screen. All set for tomorrow. Anderson Tech has no idea what's coming. I smiled, the city's neon lights blurring past my window. For 3 years, I'd built Nexus Technologies in the shadows, using shell companies to shield my identity as founder and CEO. While my family mocked my garage startup, I'd created one of the most formidable cybersecurity firms in the world, operating across 20 countries. My phone buzzed again, a family group text from my mother. Sophia's big day tomorrow. Watch the morning news for the Sterling merger signing. I closed my eyes, the irony sharp enough to cut. They had no idea the news would tell a very different story. The sedan glided to a stop outside Nexus's headquarters, a sleek tower that dominated Silicon Valley's skyline. I stepped out, my heels clicking against the marble lobby as I rode the private elevator to the 50th floor. My office was no garage. It was a corner suite with floor-to-ceiling windows, the city sprawling below like a chessboard I'd mastered. I settled at my desk, the documents for tomorrow's meeting spread before me. They detailed the truth about Sterling Industries, security breaches, outdated infrastructure, and a valuation far below the $4 billion Anderson Tech believed. My team had uncovered these flaws months ago, flaws that Sophia's due diligence had missed entirely. I flipped through the pages, each one a testament to the empire I'd built. 3 years ago, I'd walked away from Anderson Tech, my warnings about their vulnerabilities dismissed as jealousy. Now, those same vulnerabilities had led them to this moment, betting everything on a merger that didn't exist. Sterling wasn't signing with Anderson Tech tomorrow. They were signing with Nexus, a takeover I'd orchestrated in secret. My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Sarah, my assistant. Final reports are ready. Press release is prepped. I typed back, hold until I give the word. The office was quiet, save for the hum of the city below. I stood, crossing to the window, the lights of Silicon Valley twinkling like stars I'd aligned. My family thought they knew success, titles, galas, billion-dollar announcements. But I'd learned a different truth. Success was in the silent moves, the plans no one saw coming. Sophia's smug laughter echoed in my mind, her little startup jab, a reminder of why I'd kept my identity hidden. They hadn't just underestimated me, they'd stopped seeing me as family the moment I chose my path. Sarah appeared at the door, her tablet glowing. "Everything's in place for the 9 a.m. board meeting," she said, hesitating. "Are you sure about this, Gabriella? They're still your family." I turned, meeting her gaze. "They stopped treating me like family when they called my work embarrassing," I said, my voice steady. "Tomorrow, they'll see what a little startup can do." I returned to my desk, opening my laptop to review the press release that would announce Nexus's takeover. The words were sharp, precise, a declaration of power that would ripple through the tech world. Another message from Marcus. "Board members confirmed. Your family's in for a shock." I leaned back, the weight of 3 years, hiding, planning, enduring, settling into a quiet resolve. Tomorrow, I'd walk into Anderson Tech's conference room, not as Gabriella Anderson, the failure, but as Catherine Collins, the woman who'd outmaneuvered them all. The gala's champagne toasts and my mother's pearls would be forgotten in the wake of what I'd built. As the city skyline glowed beyond my window, I knew one thing for certain. The daughter they'd dismissed was about to rewrite their legacy. 3 years ago, the sterile glow of Anderson Tech's boardroom felt like a cage, its outdated servers humming faintly behind glass walls. I stood at 32, my heart pounding as I presented my report to my father, Richard, and his inner circle, Sophia smirking from her seat. My slides detailed vulnerabilities, aging infrastructure, unpatched systems, a cybersecurity disaster waiting to happen. "We need to modernize," I urged, my voice steady despite the dismissive glances. "If we don't, Anderson Tech will be a target." I believed then that facts could sway them, that my family would see the urgency. I was wrong. Richard leaned back, his fingers steepled. Gabriella, you're overreacting, he said, his tone dripping with condescension. These systems have served us for decades. Sophia chimed in, her voice syrupy with false pity. Maybe you're just jealous of my new role in acquisitions. Stick to your spreadsheets. The room chuckled, and my cheeks burned, not from shame, but from the realization that they'd never listen. I'd spent years at Anderson Tech, climbing from intern to strategist, only to be reduced to the other daughter. You're not seeing the bigger picture, I pressed, pointing to the projected losses. Millions if a breach occurred. Richard cut me off, his eyes cold. Leave the real decisions to those who understand them, Gabriella. Focus on something smaller. The words landed like a slap, echoing Sophia's smug grin. I gathered my files, my resolve hardening. They thought I was chasing their approval, but I was done begging for a seat at their table. That night, I walked out of Anderson Tech for the last time, the Silicon Valley skyline a silent witness. In my apartment, I sketched the blueprint for Nexus Technologies, a company that would outstrip its outdated empire. I'd build it in secret, using my savings and a network of allies who believed in my vision. My family's rejection wasn't a wound, it was fuel. As I typed the first lines of Nexus's mission statement, I vowed to create something they couldn't ignore, something that would force them to see me. 3 years later, standing in my Nexus office, I was no longer that dismissed strategist. I was Catherine Collins, and tomorrow I'd show them what smaller could achieve. Back in the present, the clock on my Nexus office wall ticked toward midnight, the Silicon Valley skyline a constellation of ambition beyond my windows. I sat at my desk, the weight of tomorrow's meeting settling into my bones. The documents before me were a map of my triumph, a security audit exposing Sterling Industries' crumbling defenses, a valuation slashing their worth by $2 billion, and a dossier dismantling Sophia's merger as a house of cards. My family thought they were signing a legacy-defining deal in 9, and I, Gabriella Anderson, their overlooked daughter, was about to rewrite their story. Sarah slipped into the room, her tablet casting a soft glow. The final reports are locked in, she said, her voice cautious. The press release is ready to go the moment you approve it. She hesitated, her eyes searching mine. Gabriella, are you sure? This will gut them. They're your family. I leaned back, the leather of my chair creaking softly. Family. The word tasted bitter, like the coffee cooling on my desk. They stopped being family when they laughed at my warnings, I said, my voice low but firm. When they called my work a hobby. This isn't revenge, Sarah. It's accountability. I opened the audit, my fingers tracing the highlighted flaws, backdoors in Sterling's code, unencrypted data, losses hidden by creative accounting. My team had spent months dissecting their systems, invisible to Anderson Tech's radar. Sophia's due diligence had skimmed the surface, dazzled by Sterling's inflated stock. I'd offered their CEO a choice weeks ago, public exposure or a quiet takeover by Nexus. He'd chosen survival, signing the papers in a discreet meeting while Sophia planned her victory lap. Marcus's message pinged on my laptop. Boards confirmed for 9 a.m. Your sister's already prepping her speech. I imagined Sophia, practicing her sound bites, oblivious to the storm I'd unleashed. I typed back, let her talk. It'll make the silence louder. Closing the laptop, I stood, crossing to the window. The city pulsed below, a machine I'd learned to steer while my family clung to their rusting gears. Nexus wasn't just a company, it was proof that success didn't need their applause. Sarah lingered, clutching her tablet. The media's already calling it the deal of the decade, she said. What happens when they find out it's yours? I turned, a faint smile tugging at my lips. They'll realize the quietest person in the room was the one they should have watched. I took the tablet, scanning the press release. The words were surgical, announcing Nexus's acquisition of Sterling and hinting at Anderson Tech's missteps. It was ready. Send it at 10 a.m. tomorrow, I said, after I've said my piece. As Sarah left, I sat again, my mind replaying the gala. Sophia's smirk, my mother's pearls, my father's disdain. 3 years of their voices had built this moment, each slight a brick in Nexus's foundation. Tomorrow, I'd walk into their conference room, not as their failure, but as the woman who'd turned their empire inside out. The skyline glittered, a reminder that power wasn't in the loudest voice, but in the moves no one saw coming. The morning sun sliced through the glass walls of my private office across from Anderson Tech, casting long shadows over Silicon Valley's waking ambition. From my vantage point, I watched the conference room below buzz with camera crews and board members, a stage set for Sophia's triumph. At 35, I stood in a tailored Armani suit, no longer the modest facade I'd worn at the gala, but armor for the battle ahead. My phone buzzed with a final message from Marcus. "Your sister's mid-interview, showtime." I checked my watch, 9:45 a.m., and took a breath. The daughter they'd called embarrassing was about to claim their spotlight. I crossed the street, each step a bridge between the Gabriella Anderson they knew and the Catherine Collins I'd become. Marcus and Sarah flanked me, briefcases heavy with the truth that would shatter my family's illusions. Through Anderson Tech's lobby, I glimpsed Sophia, her voice bright as she spun her merger narrative for reporters. My father stood nearby, fixed his proud gaze on her, while my mother, adorned with her celebration pearls, beamed nearby. They had no idea their empire was moments from crumbling. The conference room doors swung open at 9:55 a.m., and silence fell like a guillotine as I entered, my team behind me. Sophia's interview halted, her words choking mid-sentence. "Gabriella?" she sputtered, her eyes wide. "What are you doing here? This is a private signing." I set my briefcase on the table, my movements deliberate. "Good morning," I said, my voice calm but resonant. "Shall we begin?" "Begin?" My father stood, his face reddening. "This is absurd. We're here for the Sterling merger. Where's their CEO?" I nodded to Sarah, who distributed folders to the stunned board. "Mr. Chen won't be joining us," I said. "He signed the final paperwork last night." Sophia's voice rose, shrill. "That's impossible. I have the merger agreement here." She clutched her documents as if they could anchor her unraveling reality. "That agreement is void," I said, watching her open the folder, her face draining of color. "Sterling Industries has accepted a different offer." My father's fists clenched. "What are you talking about? Who—" I cut him off, my tone steel. "Nexus Technologies, or more specifically, me." The room froze, cameras swiveling as reporters sensed a seismic shift. Sophia laughed, a brittle sound. "You? Your little startup couldn't possibly—" "That little startup is worth $12 billion, I said, clicking a remote to display Nexus's financials on the screen. "We're the largest cybersecurity firm in the country. While you mocked me, I built an empire." My mother's pearls clinked as she sank into her chair, whispering, "But your tiny office downtown—" I met her gaze. "A front. Nexus owns this building. And as of last night, we own Sterling Industries." "Why?" My father's voice cracked, betrayal in his eyes. I gestured to Sarah, who handed out more documents, Sterling security breaches, hidden losses, and a valuation half what they'd believed. "You missed this," I said. "Your due diligence failed because you bet on Sophia's arrogance instead of facts. I gave Sterling's board a choice, exposure or acquisition. They chose us." Sophia's hands trembled, flipping through pages. "This will ruin us," she whispered. "No," I corrected. "This will save you. Nexus offers to acquire Anderson Tech at a fair price, before the market sees your vulnerabilities. You have 12 hours. The board leaned forward, their loyalty to my father wavering as they scanned the numbers. My mother turned to him, pleading, "Richard, do something!" But he was silent, his empire slipping through his fingers. I stood, surveying the room. "You called my work embarrassing," I said, my voice carrying to every corner. "You dismissed my ideas, belittled my choices, and assumed my silence was weakness. Remember this moment. The daughter you ignored now holds your fate." Sophia's composure cracked, tears welling. My father avoided my gaze, his shoulders slumped. I walked to the door, pausing. 12 hours. Choose wisely. The sunset painted Silicon Valley gold as I stood in my Nexus office, the city a testament to what I'd built. The morning's chaos had settled into signatures and surrenders. Sophia, escorted from her office, had left in silence, her perfect facade shattered. My father handed over his keycard without a word, his legacy reduced to ink on a page. My mother's celebration pearls lay forgotten on the conference table, a relic of their fallen dynasty. I sipped water, not champagne, as Marcus entered, his expression soft. "Was it worth it, Gabriella?" he asked. "All those years in the shadows?" I turned to the window, the skyline a canvas of my choices. The gala's taunts, the years of condescension, had driven me, but they weren't the whole story. "It wasn't about proving them wrong," I said. "It was about proving what success could be, something meaningful, not just their titles and galas." Marcus nodded, leaving me to the quiet. The press release had gone out at 10 a.m., and by noon, headlines crowned Nexus the new titan of tech. Anderson Tech's stock stabilized under our offer, but the Anderson name was no longer its heart. A year later, Silicon Valley had shifted. Anderson Tech, under Nexus's leadership, embraced cutting-edge systems, its vulnerabilities were patched, and its future was bright. Sophia found a mid-level role at a smaller firm, her arrogance tempered by humility. My parents, their dynasty dissolved, retreated from the gala circuit, their pride a casualty of their blindness. I saw them once, at a charity event, their glances fleeting, no words exchanged. They'd learned what I'd known all along: family wasn't guaranteed by blood. Nexus grew, not for their approval, but for the thousands who relied on me, employees, clients, innovators. We launched new platforms, secured global contracts, and redefined cybersecurity. Each step was a reminder that success wasn't in the loudest voice, but in the work that endured. When asked about my path, I told the truth. Sometimes the best response to those who doubt you is to build something so undeniable, their mistake dawns too late to matter. My family's lesson was mine too, not to linger on their errors, but to create, to last, to lead. As I stood in my Nexus office a year after the takeover, the Silicon Valley skyline no longer felt like a battleground, but a horizon of possibilities. The triumph over my family's dismissal had been exhilarating, yet it left a quiet truth in its wake. Success wasn't the act of proving others wrong, but the courage to define it on my terms. I'd spent years fueled by their mockery, each slight a spark for Nexus's rise, but that fire had risked consuming me. Sophia's humiliation, my father's defeat, my mother's shock, they were not the victory I'd imagined. The lesson settled deep. True achievement lies not in settling scores, but in building something enduring, free from the need for external validation. I'd hidden as Catherine Collins to outmaneuver them, but in doing so, I'd nearly lost Gabriella, the woman who dreamed not of revenge, but of innovation. Now, as I led Nexus into new frontiers, I vowed to create for the sake of progress, not applause. My family's underestimation had pushed me to greatness, but it was my choice to let go of their shadows that freed me to soar.
The notification lit up my phone at 8:30 on a Tuesday morning. 3 laughing faces in front of Cinderella Castle. My mother, my niece Maddie, my niece Chloe, all wearing matching mini ears. The caption read, 3 generations of magic. 3, not 4. 6 feet away from me, my daughter Lily sat cross-legged on our living room floor in Charlotte, coloring a Disney princess book. She was humming the Frozen soundtrack, completely unaware that her cousins were boarding a plane to Orlando without her. She didn't know she'd been left behind again. But she had something in her backpack. A white envelope covered in crooked glitter letters. And inside that envelope was a letter that would crack my family wide open. Because my 6-year-old daughter was about to teach my mother a lesson no adult ever could. My mother's name is Elaine Richardson, and for most of my childhood, she was the glue that held our extended family together. She organized elaborate birthday parties with themed decorations. She planned summer road trips to the Outer Banks, where we'd rent a beach house for a week. She even coordinated family reunions where everyone wore matching t-shirts with awkward clip art designs. She used to say it all the time, like a mantra she believed with her whole heart. Family is everything, and there's nothing I wouldn't do for my grandkids. But somewhere along the way, that promise started to have a very specific definition. And my daughter wasn't included in it. Lily is 6 years old now. She's my only child. She's sweet and thoughtful, The kind of kid who says thank you when you hand her something as small as a sticker. She's a little shy, especially around new people, but once she warms up, she'll talk your ear off about dolphins or whatever book she's reading that week. She draws hearts for people she loves and leaves them on the kitchen counter like little gifts. And for reasons I spent years trying to understand, my mother decided Lily didn't count as a real grandchild. I used to make excuses for her. When Lily's name wasn't on the matching Christmas pajama set that arrived for all the other cousins, I told myself Mom probably just forgot to add her to the order. When she posted photos on Facebook of family gatherings, and somehow Lily was never in a single shot, I convinced myself it was just an oversight. When Lily asked why Grandma didn't come to her dance recital, and I had no good answer, I said maybe she had something come up. But how do you accidentally forget a 6-year-old who calls you Grandma and draws you pictures in purple crayon? The truth is, my mother was disappointed in me. That's the word she used when I told her I was pregnant at 23, still finishing my degree at UNC Charlotte, unmarried and uncertain about everything. Disappointed. She said it like a knife wrapped in linen, soft on the outside but sharp enough to cut. She held Lily exactly once in the hospital. Once. She came into the room, looked at the baby in my arms, took her for maybe 30 seconds, then handed her back like she was doing me a favor. She didn't coo or smile or take pictures. She just said, "It's not her fault, but I didn't raise you to end up like this." That was 6 years ago. Since then, my mother has been present for every single birthday party my brother's twins ever had. She's taken my niece Chloe on girls' spa weekends to Asheville, complete with matching robes and cucumber facials. Last Christmas, she bought my niece Maddie a real pony, an actual living pony that lives at my brother's hobby farm outside the city. And for Lily? Last year, she gave her a jigsaw puzzle that was missing 3 pieces. When I pointed it out, she shrugged and said it must have come that way. Lily noticed things, even when I didn't want her to. She noticed when Grandma gave Maddie a brand new frozen suitcase the week before the Disney trip and didn't mention anything to her. She noticed when we joined a family video call and the connection mysteriously dropped right before Lily could say hello. She noticed that her name wasn't included in the group text when everyone was coordinating Thanksgiving plans. And she noticed when my mother finally responded to my message asking why Lily wasn't invited to Disney. The reply was short and efficient. It was just too expensive to bring everyone. Hope you understand. I stared at that text for a long time. Then I set my phone down and didn't reply. But Lily did something I didn't expect. She walked into the kitchen, opened the junk drawer, and pulled out a white envelope decorated with glitter and stickers. She held it up to me with both hands, careful like it was something sacred. "Mommy," she said, "I think it's time to give Grandma her surprise." I had almost forgotten that envelope existed. We made it on a rainy afternoon back in April, one of those slow Saturdays where the sky was gray and we had nothing to do but bake cookies and talk. Lily had been quieter than usual that day, sitting at the kitchen table with her coloring book spread out, but not really coloring anything. Finally, she looked up at me with those big brown eyes and asked, "Mommy, why doesn't Grandma ever come to my dance recitals?" I didn't have a good answer. I never did. That's when Travis came into the room. Travis is my fiancé, and he's been in Lily's life since she was 3. He teaches 4th grade at a public elementary school in South Charlotte, and he has this way of talking to kids that makes them feel heard without ever talking down to them. He sat down next to Lily, folded his hands on the table and said, "Sometimes people don't show love the way we need them to. And that's not your fault, but you're allowed to tell them how it makes you feel." Lily thought about that for a minute. Then she asked if she could write Grandma a letter. I wasn't sure it was a good idea, but Travis nodded. "Let's do it," he said. "Even if you never give it, to her it's important to say what's true." So we sat there together, the 3 of us, and Lily told me what she wanted to say. I helped her spell the words. Travis printed out a photo from her last recital, the one where she wore a blue tutu and curtsied at the end of her routine. The one my mother missed because something came up. On the back of the photo, Lily wrote in pink marker, "I was here. You just didn't see me." We put everything in a white envelope, and Lily decorated it with glitter glue and star stickers. Across the front, in her careful 6-year-old handwriting, she wrote, "For Grandma." Then we tucked it into the junk drawer, and I honestly thought that would be the end of it. A private moment, a small release, something Lily could hold on to but never actually send. But I underestimated her. The Instagram photos from Disney kept coming all week. There were pictures of the kids eating Mickey-shaped waffles drenched in syrup, videos of them screaming on Space Mountain, a carousel of images at the Magic Kingdom gate with everyone grinning under the afternoon sun. Someone in the family group chat wrote, "We'll bring back souvenirs for everyone." Lily looked up at me when I read that message. Her voice was soft but certain. "Can I tell Grandma something at brunch tomorrow?" I hesitated. "You can always talk to Grandma, baby." She shook her head. "Not talk. Just give her the envelope. Then she'll know." There was no anger in her voice, no bitterness, just a quiet kind of determination that scared me more than if she'd been crying. Because I realized in that moment that my 6-year-old daughter understood something I'd been avoiding for years. She understood that silence protects the wrong people. The next morning, Lily asked if she could curl her hair. She sat perfectly still in front of the bathroom mirror while I twisted the curling wand through her soft brown strands. She didn't admire the curls or ask to wear a bow. She just stared at her own reflection, thinking, "I hope she likes my surprise," she whispered. I kissed the top of her head. "She'll notice you, baby. I promise." But even as I said it, I wasn't sure it was true. We got dressed. Lily wore her sparkly purple dress with the tulle skirt and her tiny silver shoes. She held the envelope in both hands the entire drive to my mother's house. And she didn't let go. My mother lives in Myers Park, one of those old-money Charlotte neighborhoods where the houses look like they belong in a Southern Living magazine. Her home is a classic colonial with white columns, a wraparound porch, and an oversized magnolia wreath on the front door. The lawn is always perfect. The hydrangeas are always in bloom. Everything about it says tradition, stability, family. But that morning, it just felt cold. The smell of cinnamon rolls hit us the second the door opened. My mother stood in the doorway wearing a linen tunic and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Look who's here," she said brightly, arms outstretched. "Tessa and little Lily. My, look at you, sweetheart." She gave Lily a quick, one-armed hug, already turning away before Lily could say anything back. Then she leaned close to me and whispered, just loud enough for me to hear, "Try to make her feel included today, okay?" Like Lily was a responsibility I'd brought along. Like she was the problem. I didn't respond. I just followed her inside, holding Lily's hand a little tighter than I probably should have. The dining room table was already set with my mother's good china. My brother and his wife were there with their twins, Maddie and Chloe. The kids were chattering excitedly about the trip, their voices overlapping as they described the rides and the fireworks and the character meet and greets. And in front of each grandchild was a small gift bag. Disney-themed, shiny, full of souvenirs. There were 3 bags. Lily didn't have one. I watched her eyes move from one bag to the next, counting silently. Then she looked down at the empty space in front of her chair and said nothing. My mother glanced over and made a small sound of surprise. "Oh, sorry, sweetie. I didn't know you were coming today." My voice came out tighter than I meant it to. "I've never missed a Sunday brunch, Mom." She waved a hand. "Well, we'll find her something later. Maybe a cookie from the kitchen. Lily sat down quietly. Her legs swung under the chair, too short to reach the floor. She folded her napkin 3 times before placing it gently in her lap. She stared at the gift bags without blinking. I leaned close to her. Do you want to give it to her now? She looked up at me. Her face was calm, but her hands were pressed flat against the envelope in her lap. Yes, she said. It happened after the dishes were cleared and the mimosas were poured. The adults were laughing about something, some inside joke from the trip that I wasn't part of. My brother was showing photos on his phone. His wife was cutting another cinnamon roll. And then Lily stood up. She didn't announce it. She didn't wait for a pause in the conversation. She just stood, walked slowly around the table, and stopped directly in front of my mother. Grandma, she said softly. My mother looked at her, still smiling, but distracted. Yes, sweetheart? Lily held out the envelope with both hands. Her voice was steady, clear, and so much older than 6. You forgot me again, she said. Mommy said sometimes people don't remember unless they see it. She placed the envelope gently in my mother's lap. Then she turned and walked back to her seat without another word. The room went silent. My brother raised an eyebrow. His wife looked confused. Maddie stopped mid-sentence. Even Chloe, who never stops talking, went quiet. My mother stared down at the envelope like it was something dangerous. What is this? She asked, laughing awkwardly. No one answered. She peeled open the flap, pulling out the folded paper inside. As she unfolded it, I watched her face shift. Slowly, subtly, but unmistakably. Her fingers trembled just slightly as she read the first line, then the second. Then she turned the paper over and saw the photo. She looked at me. What is this? She asked again, her voice tighter now. Why would you? But I didn't answer. Because it wasn't my voice she needed to hear. It was Lily's. And Lily had already said enough. My mother didn't open her mouth right away. She just stared at the letter like she was trying to decide whether to fold it back up or keep reading. Finally, she cleared her throat. This is dramatic, she said, her voice edged with something defensive. She's just a child. I spoke quietly but firmly. She's a child who notices. Children don't understand these things. She does, I said, because she lives them. The table was completely silent now. Even the kids had stopped fidgeting. My mother read the letter again, slower this time, like she was hoping the words would change if she stared at them long enough. But they didn't. The letter was short. Just 2 paragraphs in Lily's careful, looping handwriting. I knew what it said because I'd helped her write it months ago. I'd helped her find the words for something I'd never been brave enough to say myself. It told my mother that Lily didn't understand why she wasn't loved the same way. That it hurt to watch her cousins get taken on trips and given gifts while she was left out. That she noticed when she was forgotten. That she saw when love skipped over her and landed gently on everyone else. And it ended with a simple sentence. I wanted you to know so maybe you'll remember next time. The second sheet was the photo. Lily in her blue tutu, center stage, arms outstretched mid-curtsy. The recital my mother missed. On the back, in pink marker, Lily had written, I was here, you just didn't see me. My mother folded the letter back up, creasing the edges too neatly, like if she pressed hard enough, she could erase what she'd just read. She blinked rapidly, like something was caught in her eye. Then she laughed, short and sharp. I don't need to be guilt-tripped in my own home. No one's guilt-tripping you, I said. She just wanted you to see. She's 6 years old. She's 6, I said. And she knew enough to bring this. There was a pause, a long, heavy pause that filled the room like smoke. And then Lily spoke. Her voice was calm, clear, certain. "It's okay if you don't want me, Grandma," she said, "but I don't want to be invisible anymore." It landed like thunder. My mother's mouth opened, closed. She looked around the table, searching for someone to defend her, some ally, some interruption, anything. But no one said a word. Not my brother, not his wife, not even Maddie or Chloe, who just stared at the empty space in front of Lily's chair. For the first time, my mother was forced to see it. Not the envelope, not the photo, but what she had created. A child who had to learn at 6 years old how to name her own pain and deliver it in writing, because no adult would do it for her. We left early. Lily gathered her things without being asked. She tucked the envelope carefully back into her backpack, handling it like it was made of glass. No one stopped us at the door. No one tried to smooth it over or apologize or ask us to stay. There were no hugs, no cheerful "see you next times," just the sound of our footsteps on hardwood floors and the echo of a truth no one could unhear. In the car, Lily was quiet. She held the photo in her lap, staring out the window as the trees blurred past. "Do you think she read it all?" she asked. I turned around to face her. "I think she heard you, baby." She nodded once. Then she looked back out the window. And for the first time in a long time, she looked like a child who wasn't carrying a question anymore. That evening, Travis came home just after sunset. I was sitting at the kitchen table with Lily, helping her peel stickers off her workbook. Her little fingers worked carefully at the edges, focused on this one small task she could control. Travis kissed the top of her head. "Hey, sweetheart." She looked up at him. I gave Grandma my surprise. He glanced at me. I nodded. She did, and she was perfect. He didn't ask what happened next. He didn't have to. He just sat beside her, resting his chin on his hand as she peeled off another sticker. "You were brave," he said quietly. Lily nodded once. Then she stood, grabbed her backpack, and headed to her room. She didn't say much that night. Didn't cry. Didn't ask what would happen next. And somehow, that silence said more than words ever could. When the house was quiet, I pulled Travis aside and told him everything. How the brunch unfolded. How Lily stood up. How she spoke. How my mother didn't. "She folded the letter like it was trash," I said, pacing now. Like Lily's pain was an inconvenience. Travis leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "She's never going to change." The next morning, I woke up to a single unread message on my phone. It was from my mother. "I'm sorry if Lily felt left out. I'll try to be more mindful next time, but I really don't appreciate being ambushed like that. You could have talked to me privately." I read it 3 times. There was no mention of the letter, no acknowledgement of what Lily had written, no apology directed at her, just a soft shuffle of blame wrapped up in polite language and deflection. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I placed the phone face down on the counter and didn't reply. Because this time, the silence belonged to me. In the days that followed, there were no follow-up calls, no awkward check-ins, no "maybe we should talk" texts, just distance. And oddly, it felt like peace. I wasn't navigating group chats where Lily's name was conveniently forgotten. I wasn't watching holiday plans get made around her, absence. I wasn't editing my tone to avoid being called too sensitive. We were just living. One evening, Lily and I made pancakes shaped like stars. We burned 3 before we got one right, and we laughed the kind of laugh that bubbles up from your belly. Unforced, pure. After we cleaned up, Lily asked if we could bring the extra pancakes to Miss Rita, our elderly neighbor who lived 2 doors down. She always gives me strawberries from her garden, Lily said matter-of-factly. She wasn't thinking about the envelope anymore. She wasn't waiting by the door for someone who never showed up. She was just being a kid. And that shift, subtle as it was, felt like watching something uncoil from around her spirit. That weekend, we went to Freedom Park as a family. Lily brought her scooter. Travis packed snacks. I left my phone in the car. We laid on the grass in the middle of the afternoon, watching clouds drift lazily across the sky. "That one looks like a castle," Lily said, pointing. I squinted. "That one's a pony." Travis grinned. "That one looks like a mouse." Lily laughed. "A Mickey Mouse!" We all laughed with her. She didn't say it with resentment or sadness. She just said it like a child naming shapes in the sky. Like Disney wasn't a wound anymore. Like it was just another place. And that was when I knew. We had already found our magic. Later that night, after Lily was asleep, I opened the drawer in my nightstand. Inside was the original copy of the letter, the one we'd written together before Lily copied it in her own handwriting. I smoothed it out gently, reading the words again. I know when I'm left out. There was a time when I thought protecting Lily meant shielding her from the truth, covering it up with distractions and soft lies and second chances no one had asked for. But now I knew better. Protecting her meant helping her speak, even if it made people uncomfortable, even if it made me the villain in someone else's story. Because my job wasn't to keep the peace. It was to keep her safe. A few days later, Lily came home from school with a paper crown on her head, covered in glitter and crayon drawings. "We were all princesses today," she said proudly. She didn't need my mother to tell her she was special. She didn't need matching mini ears or glitter gift bags. She had her voice, and she had us. And that, finally, was enough. It had been exactly 1 week since the brunch. 7 days since Lily placed her envelope on the table like a truth wrapped in paper and glitter. 7 days since we walked out of my mother's house and didn't look back. And not a single word from her since. You'd think that silence would hurt, that it would feel like a wound. But it didn't. It felt like a door had finally closed. It was a quiet Saturday morning. The sky was overcast, the kind of gray that made you want to stay in pajamas and build forts out of sofa cushions. Lily was doing exactly that, arranging blankets and couch, pillows into a crooked castle in the living room. I was folding laundry when I heard the mail slot click. At first, I didn't think much of it. A few envelopes slid onto the hallway floor. Bills, probably. Flyers. Coupons for pizza. But there was something else. A small padded envelope, pale yellow, with glittery stickers clumsily stuck along the back seam. I picked it up. There was no return address, but Lily's name was written on the front in rounded, hesitant handwriting, the kind that still loops every L and pauses over every Y. I walked back into the living room and handed it to her. "You got mail, Princess." She looked up from her blanket fort, curious. "For me?" I nodded. She opened it carefully, her fingers gentle and deliberate. Inside was a small silver bracelet with a heart-shaped charm and a folded note on lined paper. She read it out loud slowly. "Dear Lily, I'm sorry Grandma was mean. You're my cousin forever. I picked this with my allowance. I hope you like it. Love, Maddie." Lily stared at the bracelet for a long moment. Then she slipped it onto her wrist. She didn't ask if she could wear it. She just did. Then she looked up at me, her eyes soft. "She picked it for me." I nodded. "All by herself, I think." "That's nice," Lily said quietly. That was all she said. but I could see something shift in her expression. A little door cracked open again. Not to the past, but to something new. Something real. That afternoon, I sent Maddie a message. Just a simple one. "Thank you for the bracelet. Lily is wearing it right now. You made her smile today." Maddie responded within minutes. A heart emoji followed by, "I miss her. Can we play sometime without Grandma?" And for the first time in weeks, I felt something like hope. Later that night, I told Travis about the bracelet. He was quiet for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Kids always know who's real." "Do you think my mom put her up to it?" I asked. He shook his head. "No, that kind of thing doesn't come from guilt. It comes from love." He was right. Maddie had seen it too. Maybe not all of it. Maybe not in the same way. But enough. Enough to recognize hurt. Enough to offer a piece of kindness. And maybe enough to start something different. I don't think my mother will ever admit what she did. Not really. People like her don't always say, "I was wrong." They just shift the blame, rewrite the past, pretend it was all a misunderstanding. But Lily's letter can't be undone, and Maddie's bracelet is proof. Proof that one brave act, one glittery envelope delivered with quiet grace, had cracked the performance just enough for the truth to get in. The next morning, Lily was brushing her teeth when I walked past the bathroom. She caught my reflection in the mirror and grinned, toothpaste foam on her lips. "Mommy," she said, "I think I want to make a card for Maddie." "That's a great idea. With stickers and glitter?" "Of course." She paused, then added, "But no envelope. I want to give it to her myself." I smiled. Because Lily wasn't hiding anymore. She was showing up, not for my mother, not for approval, but for the people who chose her back. We didn't go back to my mother's house. Not for Easter, not for summer barbecues, not for birthdays or let's be civil brunches. There were no explosive fights, no dramatic texts, no storming out, just silence. A slow, steady withdrawal of something that had already been hollow for years. And for the first time in a long time, that silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like space. The kind of space where something better could grow. People always talk about cutting off toxic family like it's a single moment. A slammed door, a pointed finger, a final blow. But in real life, it's usually quieter than that. It's a child noticing who didn't show up. It's a gift bag left missing. It's the pause in a grandmother's voice when she says, "the grandkids," and doesn't mean all of them. It's 1,000 little omissions that add up to a truth you can no longer ignore. I kept Lily's letter, the original one, the first draft we wrote together on lined paper at the kitchen table. It lives in the same drawer where I keep her hospital bracelet from the day she was born, a lock of her baby hair, and the photo of her first steps. Not because I want to remember the pain, but because I want to remember the moment she decided to name it. She didn't scream. She didn't beg. She just stood there in her little silver shoes, handed over an envelope, and said, "You forgot me again." There was something so clear about it, so calm. It wasn't a demand to be loved. It was a declaration that she had noticed. And once a child sees something for what it really is, there's no putting it back in the box. Family isn't just who's on your Christmas card list or who shares your bloodline. Family is who shows up with their whole heart, who sees your child and doesn't measure them against anything but love. My mother lost the chance to love the best part of me. She lost the kind of magic you don't get back once it walks out your door, holding the hand of the woman who finally stopped apologizing for asking to be seen. And Lily? She didn't lose anything. She found something. Her voice, her peace, and a bracelet that says, "You're my cousin forever." If this story moved you, or if you've ever felt unseen in your own family, I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. And if you believe every child deserves to be chosen, hit that subscribe button, because some of the bravest words come from the smallest voices.